My name is Mr. Mbong Gabriel, Line Educational Services. My name is Mr. Mbong Gabriel, and I'm your mathematics instructor for today. Today our focus will be on statistics, and the class of my attention right now is SS1. But for those of you in SS2, this is more like a revision class, and those in SS3 is also a revision class. But for the SS1 student, it will be helpful. Statistics is not a new topic, because when you're in GS3, it's a topic you've done before. It's a topic that you've actually had an experience. In fact, statistics as a whole is something you see every day. Take for example, before you came to Akimo School, they gave you a form. Your parents bought form, and then you were told to fill the form. Now in the process of filling the form, they ask for certain information. They ask for your name, they ask for your address, they ask for your age, they ask for your height, if possible. They ask for some other information which I may not be able to mention here. And you were able to supply this information. Now, this process or this form for most persons is called your biodata form. And it contains all this information about you. But the process of getting all this information is what we are going to discuss here. And that is why the subject of statistics is becoming very important. And right now, presently in the country, where there are issues pertaining the health of the nation, like the COVID-19 pandemic, probably at home you'll be watching the news, you'll be hearing, oh, Lagos 340, Abuja 40, this one, Cross River State 0, Kogi 1. At the end of the day, all this is an information that the Ministry of Health is actually releasing to the public. But it's representing this information in terms of numbers. So the study of this is what we call statistics. So the process of this study is what we call statistics. So right now we are going to look at this topic in detail, and we are going to look at certain aspects of the topic that we need to consider. Statistics as a whole is a broad topic, very, very broad. But it's just that it's an interesting topic because you see it everyday life. Now, someone will ask, what's the meaning of statistics? What is the meaning of statistics? What's really statistics all about? Take for example, now you go to the hospital. And the first thing you need, maybe probably you're ill, you go to the hospital, first point of call is the record office. You ask, they tell you, okay, buy a card. You buy a card for a certain amount of money. And then at the end of the day, you are told to write, give me a card to fill information about yourself. And then when you fill the information is given, the person who attends you takes the card from you and then opens a file for you. Now this process is what is called statistics. It has to do with collecting information, collecting data, and this data they are collecting from you is not a process. It's not a process, it's data that they are getting from you. And when they get this data from you, they put it in an organized fashion. That's why they have a file. A file is the format that is used to collect this data from you. So from collecting the data, you are talking, next thing is how the data is organized. Now, in the process of organizing this data, it's put in a format that can easily be studied. Then from there, you move from organizing data, and then they'll move straight to analyzing of the data. They'll analyze the data. Take for example, like the COVID-19 experience right now in the country. When the government discovers someone who is exhibiting symptoms, you find out that at this state, maybe not one person, two or three or more. Or maybe they take a sample of the environment or the place that they are having suspect cases. Before you realize it, they will now move those, take samples of their blood and then send it for testing. In the process of this testing, they will now realize, okay, so persons have actually been positive. Then in the process of this, they will now release this information in terms of what? In data form, numeric form, and then they'll say, okay, Lagos State has 200 and something, whatever. So you find out that this, before they release this information, you find out that they've sat down to analyze the data. And they give you the percentage of persons who are actually infected, percentage of persons who are symptomatic, percentage of persons who are actually manifesting the symptoms. So how are they able to do this? It's all on this basis of statistics. So statistics is actually a process of collecting data, organizing it, then analyzing the data. Then from the analysis, you move to the stage of representation. You see on screen, they will just represent the data in terms of what? Graphs. That graph is a form of representation. They represent it in terms of charts, sometimes bar charts, pie charts, and so on. All these are forms of data what? Data representation. So today, we are still going to focus on statistics. But like I said, statistics has a lot to do with what? Collection of data. Then the next step, which is important, is organization of data. Then from organization, you have talk about analysis. Then from analysis, you talk about representation. Representation of what? Of data. Very important, representation of data. Then for those of you in school, you find out that data representation is where you will have to pay much attention to, because for your syllabus in statistics, the emphasis is on how the data is being represented. How the data is being represented is very important at your level. Now, this process, data collection, data organization, analysis, and representation, all these are things you do at the field work. In fact, it's done, like I said, every day. Like you got that your admission form falls under collection of data. In fact, you bought the form, you filled in, it was organized in a form fashion, then your analysis is being done, and then from your analysis, they will know the class they are supposed to put you, and so on. Then the final one here is the representation of data. But our focus today will be on representation of data. There are different ways in which data can be represented. Different ways data can be represented in a statistical format. You have your frequency table. Your frequency table. You have your what you call bar chart. You have your bar chart. You have your histogram. You have your pie chart. You have your frequency polygon. You even have what you call your line graph. So all this, they are actually ways of representing data statistically. There are ways of representing data statistically, and it's very important to note that. One, when you were in your junior class, you were taught frequency table. You were taught how to represent data using a frequency table. And the question is, what is your frequency table? Your frequency table actually shows, is a tabular approach that shows the level of occurrence of each item, in a distribution. Let me give you an example. An example I want to show you right now, maybe has to do with this. You can have the months of the year. You have January, February, March, April, May, and June. Now, this is what you call amount of rainfall. Amount of rainfall, probably in cm. Let's say this, hypothetically, this is 11 cm. This is 13 cm. This is 22 cm. This is 24 cm. This is call it 20 cm, and this is 40 cm. So you look at this information right now. This is a frequency table. It shows that for the month of January, the quantity, the amount of rainfall here is 11 cm. For the month of February is 13, March 22, April 24, May 20, and then June 40 cm. And the amount of rainfall here is actually the frequency of the occurrence of rain in each month of this year. So this is more like your frequency what? Frequency table. Very important. You have to note that. Another aspect which I'll just touch briefly is your histogram. Histogram is more of a bar chart format, but there's a difference between the histogram and the bar chart. For this particular study, we are not going to deal exhaustively on this particular one, bar chart and histogram. Frequency polygon, we are not going to dwell on that. Your line graph is the one you're actually used to. Line graph is the one probably in physics you are told to plot a graph. It will just say y versus x, and you plot, and it's a straight line graph or even a curve. So you discover that this is actually a line graph. That's what you do. We are familiar with this. But our emphasis today is going to be on a pie chart. We are going to pay attention to the pie chart. So like I said, our emphasis today is going to be on the pie chart. Pie chart is our emphasis for today. Pie chart is our emphasis for today. Pie chart. Now what's a pie chart? A pie chart is actually a chart that gives us a sectorial representation of each frequency, of each of the frequency of the items under consideration. So the characteristic of a pie chart is the fact that one is sectorial. Sectorial simply means that it's in form of a circle. It's in form of a circle. It's in form of a circle. So all the items under consideration will be represented in a circular format. And we know very well that the total angle in a circle is 360 degrees. So each of the items will just be a ratio representation, a sectorial representation. That's each sector. You should know that all the sectors together will make up a complete circle. So for each sector, it will be measured in terms of the angles. So the pie chart here is actually a sectorial representation like this. You could have JS1 student, JS2, JS3, and SS1. So you find out that it gives you a sectorial representation of what we are doing. So it's important we note that. We note that clearly. And another thing I want us to know is that we will have to solve some examples in order to help us understand what we are dealing with, so that we are not talking too much as regards this particular question. Now let's look at this question here. The question says, the table below shows the percentage allocation of funds for a development plan in a village. So you have this. We have agri has 30%. We have small industries has 30%. This is 10%. We have power is 20%. We have social services has 15%. Transport 20%, and miscellaneous 5%. Now the question is A. Illustrate the information in a pie chart. B. If the total amount to be spent is 400,000, find how much was allocated for power. C. How much was allocated for agri and social services combined? How much was allocated for agri and social services combined? Now, from the information right now, we've seen that the table shows the percentage of allocation of funds for a development plan in a village. Agri is 30%, small industries 10%, power is 20%, social services 15%, and miscellaneous is what? Miscellaneous is 5%. So the question now is, how much was allocated for agri and social services combined? The question is very simple. You have to illustrate the information in terms of a pie chart. But for you to do that effectively, the first thing you have to do is that you should ask yourself, this information is represented in terms of what? It's represented in terms of what? Percentages. So, and if I sum all this together, it will give me 100%. So for the purpose of board management, I'll clean this part of it so that we don't repeat ourselves. So this is the solution. So we have this as our items. You draw this, you write these percentages, or you write it in words. Then the next thing you are going to is the angle of sector. Each Each of the items is going to be represented in terms of an angle, in the angle, and it's going to be in terms of a sector. And we know very well here, very clearly, that the total, the sum of the percentage here is 100%. And for you to know each angle of item, each angle of sector for each item, you should know that the total angle of a circle is 360 degrees. So that simply means that this 30 degrees is going to be what? A ratio of what? Of the sector. So we are going to look at 30% of 360 degrees, which is what? 30 over what? Over 100 times 360 over 1. That will give you what? That will give you 108 degrees. Then 10%, 10 over 100, since it's in percentage, times 360, will give you what? 36 degrees. 20% is 20 over 100, times 360, will give you what? Will give you 72 degrees. Then 15%, which is 15 over 100, times 360 will give you what? That should give you 54 degrees. And 20%, which is 20 over 100, times 360 will give you what? 72 degrees. And 5%, which is 5 over 100, times 360 will give you what? 18 degrees. If you sum all this, it will give you 360 degrees. So which means that each angle for each angle of sector for each item is what is represented here. So what do we do next? All we need to do right now is that we have to represent this information in a pie chart. And to represent it in a pie chart is simply this. You can use your compass and get a full circle. And you have to know how to measure the angles accurately. From our sketch approach, we know very well that this angle here is somewhere here. This angle here is 108 degrees and is for average. Since this angle here is 180 degrees, so it's easier for this remaining part to be 72. And 72 degrees is for what? It's for power. And then if I, another 72 here, degrees, is for what? It's for transport. Then, which other one? 18 degrees, which is here. This is 18 degrees here. We can boldly say it's for miscellaneous. Abbreviated. And then what again? We have small industry, which here is 36 degrees. This is what you call small what? Industries. And then the remaining part here, which is 54 degrees, is called social services. The social services. So we've succeeded in representing our information. Now the question now is, if the total amount spent is 400,000, how much was allocated to power? How much was allocated to power? It's very simple. How much was allocated to power? The total amount is what? Total amount allocated is what? Total amount is what? Is 400,000. 400,000 naira. So what is allocated to power? It's just 20% allocated to power. 20% of what? It's just 20% power. Amount for power is 20% of the total what? Is the total amount. 20% of the total amount, which is 20 all over 100 times what? 400,000 all over 1. You cancel here, you cancel here, you cancel here. So how much is it? How much is actually allocated for power? Power is 20%. So what? This is cancelled here, this cancelled here, this times this will give you what? 8. So you find out that you actually had how many? 80 what? Is 80,000 that was actually allocated for power. 1,000 was allocated for power. If this is the total amount to be spent. If you don't want to use this approach, it's very simple too. You can use the angle of the sector and still get the same. What you need to do is this. The sectorial angle of power is 72. So it's just like saying 72 all over 360 degrees times 400,000. You find out that by the time you take this down, this will give you 5. 5 here will give you 8. This is this. So you also have what? 80,000. 80,000 naira. So that's the thing. So you find out that it's a lot easier and simpler to work. You can use the percentage and get it, or you use the angle of the sector and you see have the same answer. The other one says how much was allocated for agri and social services combined. Agri and social services combined. Permit me, I'll just clean this side. Agri and social services combined. Now, what's the percentage for agri? Agri percentage is what? Is 30%. Then agri and social services is what? Social what? Services is what? It's how many? Is 15%. So they said the amount combined, if you have this total, you have 45%. So it's going to be what? 45% of the total amount. 45% of the total amount. And that will simply be what? 45 over 100 times what? Times 400,000 over 1. And by the time this cancels, and this other one also cancels, this will give you what? 1. That's 180,000. 180,000 naira. That's the total amount combined. For what? For social services and agri. If you don't want to take that approach, there's another one. You can pick what? Their what? Pick their angle of sector. Agri, angle of sector for agri. Angle of sector for agri is what? For agri, where is the angle of sector? It's 108 degrees. And social services is what? Is 54 degrees. If you add them, it will be 162 degrees. So if you want to know how much money has been allocated for both sectors, using the angle of sector, it's simply 162 divided by 360 times the total amount, which is 400,000. And by the time you evaluate, you are still going to have 180,000 naira. So that's it. So you can actually see that this is very simple, very easy, and it's not complicated. So viewers, I hope you understand. I hope you can see that we don't have just one route of getting the same solution. In mathematics, you can have multiple routes, provided you follow the steps you are supposed to take. Like here, we use the percentage to get it. While this other part, we are using the angle of the sector to get it. And the amazing part of it is that we are still having the same answer. So it's not something we are saying that we are just sticking to just one track. You can see that you can use multiple roots, but you still have the same answer.